3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Karen Atwood, Director of Consumer Credit Counseling Service in Northeastern Iowa. In an effort to bring more information to you, members of the public, we at Consumer Credit present 2 credit education programs each month on KBBG Radio. They're on the first and third Tuesdays of each month from 10:30 to 11 on KBBG 88.1 on your FM dial. It's a call-in program, so feel free to call 234-1441 with your questions. The program is again repeated tonight at 7:30. Let me start by thanking Lou, Bev, Edie, and the KBBG team for allowing us this opportunity to be with you to help answer your credit and debt questions. Today with me is Cindy Stentford. Cindy is a credit counselor at Consumer Credit. And we're going to pose for you many of the questions that we have heard, things people have said to us, and we'll discuss them to give you information. If you have a question and you would like it answered, give us a call and we'll see what we can do to help you. Cindy, do you want to start a question for us?
Well, most often when people come into our offices, they're in a serious financial situation. Sometimes people come in before that actually happens. That's always best to get a head start on it before you get into serious trouble. But the first question they usually ask is, is it better to just file bankruptcy? Our response is always, can you afford to repay the debt that you owe? If in the event you can or you feel you can't, we're going to find that information out because we're going to give you, basically we're going to take your income and go through your monthly expenses and your debts. But we're going to do your expenses separate from your debts because you may be able to afford to repay your creditors by simply entering into what we call a debt management plan. And that is always going to be your best alternative rather than filing bankruptcy because obviously bankruptcy jeopardizes your credit, your future, your credit rating at the time, your future credit, the lending, the interest rates. I mean, there's so many things that bankruptcy entails. But one of the first things that a lot of people ask us also is, how do I clean up my credit?
Well, before we get into that, there's an ad playing on the radio right now. And it's a very attractive ad, especially if you've got a lot of debt. It's saying, don't file bankruptcy, don't do any kind of a plan, just contact us, and we will help you pay off a lot of money to your creditors. That's very attractive. Of course, the ad also says you need to have over $10,000 in credit debt. Now I may explain what happens. If a creditor forgives part of your debt, that is going to come back to you on your tax return. They will give you a 1099, and the 1099 will say debt forgiven, $10,000, $5,000, $600, whatever, it's $600 or more. You're then required to put that on your tax return and pay income tax on it. No creditor is going to tell you that. You can get around it by asking the creditor to send you in writing that statement stating that they will not give you this 1099 and you have to put it on your tax. So don't think because you hear it on the radio, hey, you don't have to do a debt management plan, you don't have to do bankruptcy, you go this third way. Another lady told me she sent a significant amount of income to Florida to one of these because that's what they were going to do. Her creditors were never paid, her debt is the same, and she wound up filing bankruptcy because she couldn't stop any of it, and it was just too much. So right along with this, I say the first thing you need to do is sit down and talk with somebody. Be honest about all of your debt, all of your expenses, your living style. That's very important. Don't set yourself up with a budget for somebody that doesn't ever eat out or doesn't ever go to the movies or anything, if indeed you go. Be realistic. so that a good budget can be put together, and you can actually take that budget and live on it and take care of your creditors. They need to be taken care of.
Right, because our main goal is always never to set you up to fail. And one thing about what you said, the advertising, that there you can do this and that type of thing, it's still gonna be reported to the credit bureaus as
Yes.
they agreed to settle for less than the full amount due. Now, that may not seem like a big deal right now, but in the future, a lender that's looking at your credit report will see that you didn't pay that whole debt, that you only paid a portion of it, and obviously had to go to a collection status before they could collect any money from you.
That won't be just for one, because I'm sure if you do it for one, you're gonna do it for several.
Yeah. Plus, not only the IRS, but reporting the 1099, but it is also something that a lot of debt settlement companies, even if they try to make arrangements with your creditors, what they do is when you do submit money to them, they hold that fund until they get enough to make the payment they've agreed to with the creditor. So in the interim, your credit is being affected, you're being reported late, you're getting assessed late charges, possibly additional interest. It just is not a win-win situation to go through a debt management or settlement company.
Let's talk for a minute just about how a debt management plan works. When you come in and it's determined how much money you have for budget, you will go out of the office with that amount of money, planning every week or during the month to live on. That is yours. You will also leave the office knowing how much money we have to have in order to pay your bills each month. And that will include the minimums that are required of your different creditors and the cost of that service. That's all going to be in one amount. You will leave knowing how much is due on what date, the 5th and the 20th. So when you know that is what is due, then we are responsible for paying those monies to creditors. And once a month, we send you a statement, and the statement will show the money that came in and the money that went out. Your responsibility is to look at that statement and understand that what we have done our part, that we've done our part, and you make sure you have done yours. Right along with your budget, you should be saving something. It may be little, it may be only $1 or $2 each week, but it's important because this is going to be you for the rest of your life. When you're done with that, paying that amount to us for a debt management plan, you're still going to have your budget, and then you'll have the rest of the money. What are you going to do with that? So that's a big question. And I want to bring this up at this point because I think a lot of times we hear this hype on TV and this fast fix stuff, and we're all in the prefer fast fix. None of us want to struggle on forever, and some of these struggles take a lot of years. But guess what? It didn't take a day to get into this mess.
Right. And anymore, you're bombarded in the mail, the TV, advertisements, everything. And if it sounds too good to be true, the old adage is it probably is. But you got to remember that other than a nonprofit company like CCCS, these are for-profit companies. They're going to charge you, and they're going to, presumably, their goal is to make money off of handling your bills. So their fees are going to be considerably more than a nonprofit agency. And remember that none of them can ever guarantee that they can get a modification of a mortgage loan or that they can, consolidate your debt. One of the things that I recommend is just go to Google and website the business name and then ask for reviews. Because there are some companies out there that are scams. And if it's a legitimate company, you can always check them out with the Better Business Bureau. They always are supposed to send you something in writing anyway if the debt is legitimate. And if they tell you they can't do that, you know right now that's not a legitimate, that it's a scam or a fraud or somebody trying to get money out of you.
Let's talk for a minute about line of credit loans or home equity loans. We have banks and credit unions all over that will say, oh, you've got 6 credit cards, let's consolidate them all into one. It'd be one easy payment with us. Remember, debt is debt until it is gone. Because you came up with a consolidation loan instead of all these credit cards, doesn't mean the credit cards are gone. It's just a new form of debt. And if you paid down any of that, so you were getting lower interest, you're not lower interest anymore, it's now all of the new consolidated loan interest. That's only one thing. Secondly, because you paid those credit cards off, they're all gonna send you new cards. And you're gonna have, and they will all be special introductory offers, low interest rate, no pay for 90 days, that sort of thing. And because you've used a consolidation loan to put your debt over here and you feel confident of that, you will feel that this is a good idea. And pretty soon you're gonna have twice the debt you had before.
And what really scares me about that whole situation, Karen, they're taking unsecured debt and basically making it into a secured debt, because the majority of home equity, well, the home equity line of credit, that type of thing, it is considered a second mortgage usually on your property. So you've taken unsecured debt, made it secured debt, you've jeopardized your home. If you can't make that payment, you're out of luck, because it is a secured lien against your property.
Be careful of increasing the length of time it takes you to pay it off. Sometimes you get in a tough spot and you talk to a lender and they'll say, well, you've got enough equity, let's move that down, let's make that another 5 years. Well, that's gonna add interest to the situation and it's gonna add 5 years of payments. What you need to do is look at where your money is and what you can do and make some agreement in order to pay this off so you don't have to change the length of the loan.
Yep.
The idea of this whole thing is to get you solvent, free, so that your money is truly yours.
Well, another big question that people ask quite often when they come in is, how do I clean up my credit? You know, what kind of credit score do I have to qualify for a home loan, that type of thing. Now, generally, we advise most people that 650 is normal and considered a good rate. But anything 700 and above, if you want good loan rates or interest rates, we recommend you have at least 700. As far as cleaning up your credit, very simple. Stop using your credit cards and pay your debts.
Pay them on time.
Pay them on time.
A lender told me I would be surprised how many people pay their house payment on the 16th of the month, or the 15th of the month, because they know the late payment charge was on the 16th. If it's a house payment and it's due on the 1st and you don't pay it till the 15th, you're 15 days late.
Yes.
And that shows up. It shows up all over. So if it's due on the 1st, try to get it paid on the 31st, the day before.
And also, pay more than your minimum payment. My very first mortgage payment, I have to say, I was working in a mortgage banking industry, so I knew basically what was going on. But my boss told me that even if I put $5 more a month on my payment, it would save me an average of like 7 months, which in the term of a 30-year loan, that may not seem like a lot, but that's 7 monthly payments that it will save me. And ultimately, I've always paid more principal or additional principal, whenever I do make a mortgage payment. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount. At one time, I know that when I first started, my payment was like say $415.79. I did basically $418 for 2 years, and then I upped it to $420 until, as my wages increased, that's what I did. With that extra money is I increased my payment to my mortgage company.
And that's money that you would have lost any other way. It would have just been gone, that extra buck or two or three.
Yep.
That's not something you would have saved and bought a bowl with.
No, I would have bought a bottle of pop or, whatever, if I had it in my purse, that's what I would have done with it. But there again, too, it not only saves you that, but it's a realistic plan. Like you said, you've got to be realistic, you've got to be honest about it and know what you can and can't do.
Well, people ask me, why do I need credit? I do just fine.
Well, if you try to rent a hotel, rent a car if you're traveling, book an airline flight, basically they're gonna ask you to secure that reservation with a credit card. We recommend to always keep at least one card that's not specific to like a store, like a Walmart or a Kmart or Target, something of that nature. You have one general credit card that you can use as you need it for reservations or in the event of an emergency. You never know what's going to happen, and from day to day, if something happens, a flat tire or a broken bone, you have that card available if you need it.
Another one is renting. Your landlord asks credit references. So you should have it. And none of your banks or credit unions are gonna divulge information on your credit cards, but it will be asked when you rent. When you own things, there's the question, joint or single, how does that affect you? Well, it does affect you when you file bankruptcy, because today you can file bankruptcy singly and be married. Whereas 50 years ago, if one in a marriage had to file bankruptcy, they both did. Everything they did affected both of them. And today, if you get a credit card, if you're married and you get a credit card and it's singly held, the responsibility for that is going to be yours. If your husband gets it, so you should each one of you should pull a credit report and look at them together so you know who's responsible for what and how much debt is out there.
Plus, you can get a credit card, say if your husband has better credit, yours is not the best, but he wants you to have the availability of that credit card, he can open it in his name and have you as an authorized user. So you really technically don't have the responsibility of those payments, only he does. But still, you can take advantage of having that credit availability.
Yes. Well, how do you get a credit report?
Well, basically you can get them online for free at www.annualcreditreport.com. However, it does not give you your FICO or your credit rating. But there are 3 major credit bureaus, and you can get a credit report from each bureau once a year for free. So technically you can do all 3 at one time, or you can stagger it every 4 months and basically have a credit report from each of the different credit bureaus, and by the time it rolls around to the next 4 months, you're at a time for you to get the first one again. So you can stagger it every 4 months or get them all 3 whenever you want, but it's only once a year from each 3 bureaus.
Now, if you come into our office, a credit counselor will pull your credit report, or you bring these 3 reports in, and they will read it for you. There's a difference between having the report read and receiving it. As you may imagine, there's a lot of Greek lettering in it. There's a lot of stuff that's hard to understand. Companies report, VHN, stuff like that, and you'll say, I don't have any VHN. Well, a credit counselor is going to say VHN is this company. This company is collecting for this. And then now I understand. So we help to remove some of that very difficult to understand stuff by reading your credit reports for you.
And there is a lot of confusion out there because credit collection companies, if they say they try to collect their debt for 90 days and they can't get anywhere with you or any money, they're going to sell it possibly to another collection agency. If it goes to a judgment, It may be out there under the original creditor, the collection agency, and the judgment, all three. So you really have to pay attention to what is out there on your credit report. A lot of people ask me if I pay my medical bills on time, can they still send me to collection? And the answer is definitely yes. Unfortunately, they can. A lot of them won't, as long as you make regular payments in a timely manner. You know, don't try to like skip, you know, a couple weeks even and then pay them. Just make a payment every month. And most often, the majority of medical providers will go ahead and take those payments as you remit them without furthering any type of collection or legal procedure against you. Of course, it always probably depends on the amount of money you owe and the amount of money you're willing to pay or able to pay them also.
And you're communicating with them. Because some of these medical professionals are just very sure about what they're gonna do, and they're not too pleasant to deal with. So the more often you communicate, the more correct you are on the dates and the amounts that you pay,
And
the better they're gonna work.
yep, I know you mentioned before, Karen, a lot of them have programs that they can forgive portions of the debt. So, you know, always check with the medical provider for those options, see if they're available. See what you have to do to qualify to get some type of forgiveness. That's, you know, that's an option for you to always explore with anybody that gives you service.
It's worth a lot, because you really need to, and if you're not good at putting things together, talk to a relative of yours and talk about it, because a lot of times being close to the situation, for instance, if you had surgery and if you had some other things come up and now you're stuck with a big bill, talk to a person and let them rephrase it for you and put it in this letter to the foundation and see if the foundation won't forgive at least part, if not all, of that medical debt.
And that is true, because a lot of things is simply how you ask rather than what you say. Another big question that we get quite a bit is about student loan debt. Now, we have the Educational Opportunity Center here in Waterloo that, especially if your loan is delinquent, you know, we always refer you to them, because 99% of student loan debt is secured. And it's not, you're not even able to forgive it by filing bankruptcy. It's not dischargeable. But there again, you know, if they need help, that's the best option for you to explore, is at the Equal Opportunity or Educational Opportunity Center. Because they will help you. But we've had parents come in that have said, well, I co-signed my loan for my daughter or son or whomever. And again, they're not dischargeable. The only way you can actually get rid of, and I don't want to say only, but the most often, the only way a student loan debt is forgiven, if it's backed by the government, is for you to become disabled 100% and you are disabled for more than 3 years. Then those loans are waived or, you know, taken care of. But
And it takes practically an additional 3 years beyond you being disabled,
Yes.
in order to get that.
yeah,
You continually get all the letters.
Yep, and that interest is accruing, you know, there's just no doubt about it. Now, if it's a private loan, they can be refinanced possibly, depending if your parents co-signed and their credit is maybe better than yours. Your parents could refinance them, consolidate them, you know, do whatever they need to do. But there again, you're depending on the interest rates being lower than what you were originally paying. So it's always a gamble.
Yes. Well, before we close our little session today, I just want to take you again through the aid you have right here in Waterloo, Consumer Credit Counseling Service. Our certified credit counselors are here to help you figure out what to do with your financial situation. None of them are going to tell you, you should have done this. This is the budget I want you to have. It has got to be your budget. It's your situation, your life. And after you leave our office, maybe you will go home and live on that budget. Maybe you will go out and file bankruptcy. hopefully we would make your life easier, so that if you're gonna get married, you feel sure of who you are and how you can help someone else enjoy a good married life. If you are going to change jobs, move locations, because of this counseling, hopefully you will learn what you can do to be a more stable person in this community. I have always said the advertisers on TV and radio are so good. They know just what to say to make you really want to have either more of the goods or services. However, our money doesn't go along with that. And many times we are low on money and high on needs. So we need to look at the things that we really need, the things that we want, and set up some goals. Goals for our short-term winnings, goals for our long-term plans. And then we also need to have money in that kitty for emergencies. Because we don't know when the hot water heater's gonna quit working and there's $1,000 bill, or when the step's gonna break and there we've got another $300 has to be paid. Any of those things. So as long as we don't know what they are every month, every payday, we need to throw some money into our emergency kit. That way, when an emergency does hit, we have something to rely on outside of our relatives and friends and banks for loans or credit unions. There's nothing that makes you feel worse than to really need something and go to a bank or credit union and get the 20 degrees by them, making you feel very bad about who you are. So the best thing for you to do for yourself is save some money. Save money for emergencies and money for retirement. Only you can get it out of your money. You can figure out how much can be saved. Consumer Credit is located at 1003 West 4th in Waterloo. Our office hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and Friday 9 to 12. Counseling is free. You come in for free credit counseling. Credit report review. The fee for that is,
I believe it's $40.
$40. And that will take you through everything you need to know on that. The debt management plan, the cost of that is determined by the number of creditors you have and the amount of work involved. But the average is about $50 a month. And that could go up or down depending upon your needs. We are available to make sure you get what you need and that your life becomes what you want it to. So we are nonprofit, we're accredited by the Comzon Accreditation, bonded by the State of Iowa Division of Banking. Here to serve your needs and to make sure that being credit happy is what you are. Thank you, Cindy, for being with me this morning.
Thank
and
you.
giving this insight to our local community. Take care.
I like that when you did those questions. I thought that was pretty good.
That get you doing, I thought really well too.
I'm gonna definitely listen to it tonight because I try to stay away from the mic song so you don't hear me like read that. Because that bothered me the last couple of times I've heard myself read.